Hey Banff Nation, it's Revidescent84 again. Sorry you have not seen my lovely face for a while. I've been quite occupied. I just finished moving, for one, as you may be able to tell behind me, you may not. But yes, I finally got a house. We live in a house now, not an apartment. We don't live in the barrio anymore. So it's kind of a refreshing change of pace to be able to tell company to come over, because I'm quite certain they won't get their asses capped in our parking lot over here in the duplex that we just moved to. Which I might give y'all a little treat at some point and film a little bit of my new place, because it's got a media library and it's really pretty and I feel like all fancy all of a sudden. But anyway, I did that, and also I just got over recuperating. I got my first broken bone in my life, guys. And I don't even have a cool story for it, which is the part that I'm more upset about. I broke my toe a month ago.
You should see the other guy.
Out of my own just klutziness and uncoordinated self, I stubbed it on a desk, spinning around in a spinning chair, trying to do a Dukes of Hazzard thing at the front desk of my salon that I work at. And I thought I just stubbed it really good. I woke up the next morning and it was 10 different shades of purple, black, red, pink, and every other color of the Skittles rainbow. And I looked and I said, don't think that I just stubbed it. I might have broke it. So I had to get over that too, because I was bedridden for the most part for a while. Besides, I literally hobbled to work and hobbled back here. So I've had a lot going on. But I am back now. I have a lot of videos in the works. But today I'm going to start off here with the first one, which by the title you may be able to tell I am going to be addressing a certain somebody right now. And at the risk of sounding like a bandwagon hopper, it's just something that pissed me off enough that I had to have my say about it. Because it seems like another one of those things where this YouTuber covered it pretty well, and this YouTuber covered it pretty well, but none of them really got the complete package to me. You know, they all did great work independently. You kind of have to kind of mash it all together into like a little YouTuber disillusioned stew to kind of get your fill on it. But I'm not being a bandwagon. I'm not one of those people that's trying to talk about other YouTubers just to get views. But I did want to touch on this a little bit today, you guys, and see if everyone else, and I know some of you are, because I know some of my subscribers I've seen commenting on the videos, so I kind of know your stance on this already. But I'm very upset. Nay, not necessarily upset, but I'm very disappointed in Mr. Repzion and Daniel. I used to be subscribed to him till a few weeks ago when I unsubscribed, and I subscribed to him for a year at least, maybe even 2 years. It's been a while, I know, because I used to really enjoy him, but there's just been something changing in him the last couple of months, and it's starting to come to a head, and I'm seeing that I'm not the only one that's had some issues, and that's found his recent behavior to be a little bit suggestive and problematic. And, like I said, most of you probably know kind of what I'm talking about, but if you don't, I'll go over it. The biggest problem I have is that he insists, Mr. Repzion insists, that he is not glamorizing suicide, and that he's not telling anybody to die, or he's not telling anybody how to kill themselves. He's just merely suggesting it. And one, to call death beautiful of any sort, especially suicide, that's glamorization in itself right there, to call it beautiful. There's nothing beautiful about suicide. There's nothing beautiful about death of any sort. It's never what I would call beautiful, whether it be human or an animate object. I wouldn't call dead flowers beautiful unless they're pressed in a book, and even then it's kind of creepy to me if you collect dead plants. Anything dead is not usually beautiful. I mean, people build houses out of wood, but you never see people doing shit with petrified wood, do you? Anyway, so death is never beautiful. It's dark, it's depressing, it's morbid, and it usually just results in grieving. There's nothing joyous about when anybody dies, so how on earth could you call it beautiful? I feel like that's just yet another one of those things that kids nowadays, in all their emo mannerisms, which I thought that was passé, but in all their emo mannerisms are trying to portray as something beautiful. Back in the days when you would see album covers with people with like slit arms or slit necks or whatever, but be like a rose next to it, like the thorns of the rose slit their necks, and oh, it's so beautiful and so thought-provoking and so artistic. No, it's really not. But that's the problem mainly for me, is you can't portray something as serious something that you can't mince your words on, like suicide. There's no way to kind of tiptoe around that issue. You can't portray something like that in a positive light, especially when you're somebody like Mr. Repzion that has a predominantly younger fan base. We all know it. And if there's any of you reptiles out there, you can vouch for me that most of y'all are probably in the 11 to like maybe young 20s demographic. There's very few of you that are probably older than that. I was probably one of the only older fans he had. And that's more because I was like, oh cool, this guy's awesome and he's opinionated and he stands up for the right thing and he likes Nintendo. Fuck yeah! But, and well, kids nowadays think that they know about the Nintendo too. I mean it in a derogatory sort of way. But minors, people in general, but especially minors, are very easily influenced. Especially by people like Mr. Repzion, that in their minds they hold on a pedestal in a very high regard. They have a lot of authority and a lot of sway in how they view things. If he says something's cool, that person who's watching the video is probably going to think it's cool because he said so. They're going to factor in a lot of what he said as their personal opinions as well. So, to talk about something like that, like suicide, over a cup of coffee, like you're talking about the weather or the news, you can't do that. There's no takey-backsies on that. It can influence them. Like, for instance, whenever I was a teenager, before the age of the internet, I was very depressed. I mean, one, I already suffered from depression and anxiety anyway, but then you add the hormonal teenage tendencies to that, and everything's going fucking ballistic and bonkers when you're that age. I tried to commit suicide a couple times when I was a teenager, but I had what I would consider, and I would say as adult, very credible reasons to do that. But at that point in time, whenever I just felt like I would never amount to anything, I felt like nothing I did was ever good enough. That's a whole other video to get into on that, all that. But if I would have had something like that in my life at that time, if we would have had the internet, and if he would have been as popular back then as he is now, let's just pretend like he'd be the same age, like he'd be 22 or whatever, and I'd be watching him when I was 15, then that could have really influenced me. I could be dead right now. And I'll give you a couple links in the description after this of a great guy's video who should be getting way more views, because he touched on that too, on that scenario. It's already had issues. It's already causing problems. I don't know if he's aware of this or not, or if he's just turning a blind eye to it. It's already caused problems. It's caused one person to contemplate killing himself, and he almost succeeded. And I don't know if Mr. Repzion had anything to say about him. From what I heard, he ignored the guy, which that's really classy to do, to not own up to anything you've done. Which that's what a lot of people are pissed off about right now. Is not the fact that he's making all these mistakes, it's the fact that he hasn't said anything regarding them, or he hasn't apologized for them at all. That's one major issue, is the fact that you could really influence the way that these young, impressionable people are thinking about things like suicide. Very serious things that they should be giving a lot of thought to on their own terms. Not taking what someone else says, who watched maybe even half of a documentary, and formulated that as his own opinion. He isn't a psychiatrist, kids. He's not even like a sociologist. He's nothing that holds a pedigree that where he would know about suicide, or would know about depression, or anything like that. He's not an authority figure, kids. Don't listen to what he says. I mean, go get help. Go talk to a therapist at least. Go get somebody who can help you work through your issues. There are other ways to deal with it. It's what a lot of people like to say, that suicide is a permanent solution to a temporary problem. And I would really urge you, because especially when you're a teenager, you have your whole life ahead of you. Things will work out, trust me. I was in your position. I'm not your exact same position, but somewhere very similar, where I didn't think my life would ever improve. And now looking back, it was silly, and I realized, oh, I was just a very, very emotional teenager. And it's a hard thing to go through, but you'll make it through. Anyway, the fact that he won't own up to anything that he's talked about. Either that, or he's outright denied it, or he's outright covered it up, or he's outright even lied about some of it. And I know plenty of other YouTubers that have made a mistake and said something in a video they wish they wouldn't have said, or they started shit with somebody on YouTube and wish they wouldn't have done that. But they at least admit it. I'm not naming names, but we know who these people probably are. They at least admit it and apologize for it usually, and try to better it and try to resolve it and fix whatever damage they may have caused. They at least do that and try to make it right. Mr. Repzion, like I said, it's one thing to just disregard a situation and not address it and just totally be oblivious to it. It's another thing that you're causing people anguish and that you will not respond to it or try to mediate that. And like I said, that's because so much information, a lot of that will be down there for you. I might stick a few of the screen caps in between of all of this. And another thing that's been bothering me about him is that he's very, like, anti-censorship. He always talks about how he's anti-censorship and how upset he gets when anything that he may gets flagged or when anything that he may gets complained about or whenever anyone reports him, he's 9 shades of butthurt and he talks about, but yet he will be the first one to try to report you or to try to flag you or have your video taken down or your channel even closed if you do anything to upset his frail, delicate little sensibilities. He can't deal with any criticism whatsoever. He either, like I said, doesn't address it, or he does these little backhanded, sneaky ways to try to get back at you. And to a certain degree, too, a lot of what makes me mad is the audacity this guy has to pretend like his life sucks that bad, to pretend his life is that terrible, even though he doesn't have to work because he gets paid for his channel. He doesn't have to know what manual labor of any sort is, or what productive work for society is of any sort. Oh, but he went to Africa once. That negates any. That means he doesn't have to work for the rest of his life, and he can do whatever he thinks he wants to, because that negates anything negative that he would ever do. That makes up for it. You know what's funny, Mr. Repzion, is that mentality, isn't it the same mentality you abhor in Christians? How they feel like they can have, especially the super devout Bible thumpers, feel that they can do just the most nefarious shit when they're away from church, but if they're there for 2 hours a week and they set up Hail Marys, they're A-okay and fine. Isn't the exact same quality that you're showing, just in a different medium, that you despise in them? That's the big keyword of your entire attitude lately, is hypocrisy. There is a lot of blatant hypocrisy you've been displaying with your attitude on this. And by the way, I'd like to clarify for anyone out there who thinks he is some patron saint of like amnesty and charity, he's really not. He complained about being in Africa the entire time he was there, pretty much, Joe. It's like, did you not study where you were going, that you were going to an Islam nation? It wasn't going to be all peaches and cream, honey. It wasn't going to be, you know, they're going to carry you on a little bamboo chair with like big old leaves fanning you, feeding you grapey wapies. Did you think that was what was going to happen, sweetheart? Because it wasn't. And the place that he went to, Morocco, it's one of the most affluent nations in the third world countries over there in Africa. I mean, go look up Morocco sometime, kids. It's not as bad as he made it out to be. For one, it's a tourist-driven nation. How many places in Africa would you feel safe being a tourist in? Morocco is one of the few. Two, it's a cultural mecca. It's known as an epicenter of music and movies. I mean, where did you think the movie Casablanca took place? That glamorous, illustrious movie back in the 40s. Yeah. Casablanca's in Morocco. It's the biggest city there, kids, and that's where all this beautiful music and cuisine and art and literature comes from. I mean, they're doing pretty well keeping up with the rest of the first world right now in terms of music. They listen to rock music, they listen to reggae, they listen to hip-hop, all that. It's not that far behind. If you go look up some of the hotels they have over there, which, by the way, Mr. Repzion, Google paid for his hotel over there. Anyway, but if you go look up some of the, what do you call it, the architecture over there, and so where people live, their houses and the hotel rooms, they're really nice. They're probably nicer than my upgraded dump here from the last place I lived at. So it was not really that rough where he was staying. It really wasn't. It's like saying you're going to South America, and then saying like Brazil or Colombia or somewhere nice like that, or Venezuela. He didn't go anywhere that harsh to stay. When he went to Africa, he picked about the nicest place you could go to there. So no, it does not negate anything that he does. He shouldn't be applauded every 30 seconds. Even though he'll make sure to applaud himself every 30 seconds for doing that. He does a great job of acting like he wants to be treated with respect. And he wants entitlement. And he forgot the golden rule, that you can't just get respect for no good reason. You have to earn it. And you certainly don't earn it by making friends and burning bridges with everyone that you've tried to do that with. And you don't make friends by acting like a self-entitled, self-important, spoiled brat, which is what you're doing a fabulous job of doing. I mean, you wonder, Mr. Repzion, why I see comments all the time on videos that are for and against you, on your channel and elsewhere, that all try to stick up for you, all your little reptiles that say, oh, leave him alone, he's just a kid, leave him alone, he doesn't know anything yet. Newsflash, he's not a kid. He's 22 fucking years old. He's an adult and he needs to act like it, because he hasn't addressed that yet. He seems to think that he's still a kid and it's okay to play dress up and not have any responsibility or any accountability for anything you do or say. And he wonders why people treat him like a child, because he won't grow the hell up and get a pair. Like, for real, he has one of the qualities I hate the most in people, and that's blaming everyone else around you for shit that happens to you. Like, you're not in charge of any of your own manifest destiny.
Does anybody out there have any questions?
Why are you so stupid?
Oh, that's a good question. Anybody else?
Like, everything in your future is left up to the fate of others. It's in their hands. It's not. It's in your hands. Grow up, take control of your own life, and quit blaming others for the fact that you don't have a real job, or for the fact that you don't have a lifelong partner, or someone to even just as a booty call, which is, I don't think he wants a lifelong partner. I think he wants a bunch of booty calls. He's a sexual fucking deviant. He's a furry. And, oh, and how novel, by the way, he condones bestiality, but only if the animal's okay with it first. So, if a horse tried to hump him, I guess all bets would be off. I don't know. I'd hate to see when he would be able to apply his theory on that, his postulate. I'd hate to see when he'd be able to apply that and prove that. And it's funny, I think, that if you asked everybody to define what Mr. Repzion's trademarks are on his YouTube, they would say they're his anti-Onesian videos, and his I'm an Atheist videos. So, I'm about to lay on a couple more of those thick layers of the trowel and build a brick wall of hypocrisy for you guys, to show you why this is an issue. And you can't just do these things like he's been doing lately and not to expect to get called out on it, which is what he can't cope with right now, that he's getting called out on all the shifty, shady shit he's been perpetrating lately. But the first thing is the atheist thing. That's the first thing he became really, really well known for, is from being like a super devout Christian to an atheist all of a sudden, like overnight almost. And he thinks that gives him some kind of majestic, like, or some kind of magic title, some kind of magic card that he can just pull out now, the atheist card, and that somehow makes him more superior to anybody else. And it doesn't. And I don't know why he has that kind of behavior and thinks that that's what it's all about, that mentality. I mean, I'm an agnostic. I'm not religious at all. I'm not atheist, I'm not Christian or anything else. I'm agnostic, meaning that, like anyone else, I don't have any proof of what exists out there. God could be any, if there is a God, or whatever it be known as, it could be anything in the world. It could be a ball of stardust. It could, I highly doubt it's a man in the sky. It could be a ball of stardust. It could be anything in the entire world. It could be a spaghetti monster. Who the fuck knows? No one does. Everyone has the exact same amount of proof. So to me, we're all equal in that regard. That none of us have any more data than the other person on what exactly exists that makes the world do what it do. But he seems to think that it gives him privilege over everybody. So he has atheist privilege. And he doesn't. And by asserting every 5 seconds that he's right and you're wrong, and that's just all there is to it, and braying like a donkey about, I'm an atheist! I'm an atheist! I'm right, you're wrong! Anyway, by braying like that every 30 seconds about his atheism, he's becoming just as bad as what he opposes. Once again, isn't that what he hates in Christians? The fact that they just insist that they're right, and you're wrong, and if you don't believe the same dogma, you're going to hell, and you're going to go burn in eternal fire and brimstone and sulfur, and whatever. Barry Manilow's been playing for the rest of eternity. You're gonna have a pineapple shoved up your ass at 4 o'clock by Adolf Hitler. Anywho, that's a different thing entirely. But so one, in that regard, he already became what he hates. I already talked about earlier how he's already becoming what he hates. And 3, for someone that hates so much what Onesian practiced, which was a bunch of lies and deception and hypocrisy, you're doing the exact same thing as he was doing right now. The exact fucking thing, Mr. Repzion. By trying to pretend that you're some kind of pure counselor to, like, your demographic. By holding impressionable young people and instilling in them that you're some kind of important person, that they should confide in you and believe what you say to be true, the same way that he was a master manipulator and still tries to be. You've become him too. Little Gurg would be so proud of you right now, wouldn't he? And I think what he's going to end up doing, by the way, I think it's very funny that he's Mr. Repzion, that he has reptiles, because a reptile is a lot like Mr. Repzion. Cold, slimy, and unfeeling. And scaly, and just generally just unpleasant, you know. And he's become very unpleasant lately. But I know what he's going to do. We all know what he's going to do. He's going to deny it for a while and not comment on it at all, because he thinks that if people get out of their systems and talk about him for a while, they'll eventually forget and just return to him like nothing ever happened, and then it'll just be forgotten. It'll go down in the annals of YouTube history, and that's all the notice that they'll be giving to it, and he'll just resume as usual after that, almost like being back on air after one of those long, annoying, beepy, staticky things on TV, one of those little test patterns. But it's not going to work that way. He's going to pretend that for a while. And after that, after he keeps getting hounded and keeps getting pressed by everybody who's disillusioned, disenfranchised with him right now, I think he'll finally address it. But he won't do it in the dignified way that we'll expect him to with integrity. He won't do that because that's not Mr. Repzion. What he'll do is he'll do one of two things. He'll either whine and cry and insist that he didn't mean any of it, and insist that it was all misconstrued and misinterpreted, and that's not what he meant by any of it. He'll either do that and just cry and try to get sympathy because he's great at doing that. Or, the other one, this is what I suspect he'll do because this is one of his many trump cards he likes to pull, is he will all chalk it up to one of his many mental illnesses. He's got a new one every week, I swear to God. He'll chalk up to one of his many mental illnesses that made him do it, or some kind of stress in his life that made him do it, or something like that. Something that, oh, I just couldn't handle it, and I was acting out, and it's so uncharacteristic of me, and I can't even believe that I did it. He'll take one of either two of those routes, but it'll get him the same thing in the end. Or he'll hope it gets him the same thing in, which is pity and sympathy from everybody else that will all sob into our hankies and pine for him. And say, oh, he's just misunderstood. See, he's a good boy. And then he'll go right back to what he's doing in the first goddamn place, which is white knighting everything and pretending that he's standing up for all the citizens of YouTube, and that he's going to defend us from all the evils of the world, from all the fat shaming and all the slut shaming, which, oh yeah, he'll defend you from slut shaming. Just send him his picture, send him your near naked picture on Instagram. He'll be more than happy to comment on it and back to it later and tell you how that went. But if he does do an apology video, he'll be like anybody else that got caught red-handed doing something. He won't do it because he's sorry he did any of this shit. He'll do it because he's sorry that he got caught. He makes me think of that old song now because his bullshit's getting called by everybody right, left, and center on the internet. The 7 continents of YouTube are all pissed off at him right now. I will offer him, however, a guideline to redemption. Because even though people can be pissed off at you, people are almost always willing to forgive somebody if they humble themselves enough, if they endear themselves enough, if they do make it obvious in a genuine sort of way with real gravity that they're sorry, they're sincerely sorry for something they did. And there's a few things I want, Mr. Repzion, if you're watching this, a few things that I want. And one is to not flag my video because I haven't said anything untrue. It's all either speculation or opinion, which is well under my rights to say. We want your honest activity as far as flagging and reporting people goes, because a lot of people's videos have been flagged all of a sudden, and it only seems to be when it's about you.
I'm flagging, I'm stitching, I'm flagging, I'm clicking, I'm flagging, I'm stitching, I'm flagging, I'm clicking.
They get flagged or removed, that people's channels get threatened, which that's very serious. You can't get people's channels fucking removed. Some people have spent years cultivating their YouTube audience and have spent years working on their craft and just yoink it under them because you're upset at something they said about you because boo boo boo, the bully on the playground said something mean about you and I'm gonna go tell the teacher. And I bet you were the snitch when you were in school. I can see you being the little runty snitch kid. Anywho, we want honest activity on that. And if you say I haven't done any reporting or any false flagging, we all know that's bullshit already, because who else would use a fake name to report shit and it's filed on the official paperwork? That who else would use, well, online paperwork, what do you call it, not real paperwork obviously, but you know, online. That who else would do it under Wade Wilson or whatever, Deadpool's fucking name? We only know one person on YouTube that dresses like Deadpool and walks around like that on a daily basis. I mean, really, how stupid are you? Who else did you think we were going to think it was? Do we think it really somebody had their name that? There probably is, but it's a very highly unlikely chance. 2, we want you to tell the truth about your stance on suicide. Because for somebody that says, oh, I don't glamorize it, in my video you'll pay attention, I only talk about euthanasia. Which, by the way, I hate when you say that. You're trying to make it sound prettier than it really is to say euthanasia. It's not euthanasia. Euthanasia is done when somebody's in a coma or when somebody is unconscious of what's going on, when they're put out of their misery. That's one thing. You're urging people to take their lives while they're still alive. And while I have no problem with assisted suicide, that's not what this is about at all. I have no problem with it. I'm clarifying that right now, just so I don't get into much of uninformed, ignorant, unintelligible comments in the comment section from reptiles, because I know what y'all do. I used to be one of you, remember? I know your tricks, don't try it. Don't like the honest truth, because if you say it's the only time you ever condone suicide, you're bullshitting on that too. Anyone can go to your Tumblr for about 5 seconds and see every third post from you is about some song that talks about killing yourself, or some movie scene about how to hold a gun right. Yes, these really all do exist, people. They're really all on there, and especially if you have a young audience following you on Tumblr and they see how lustrous and grand you're making it out to be. Of course, they're going to probably, to a certain degree, be influenced by that. So we want you to talk about that. Why are you talking about it on your Tumblr so much? And for somebody that's so fucking upset about life, they talk about that much. Anyone I know in real life who's been depressed, anyone who's ever committed suicide, usually you don't really get a lot of warning. They might tell one friend close to them that they've been contemplating it, or that they're just sad, or that they just don't feel anything anymore, but they very rarely talk about it for weeks ad nauseum. Usually those are the people who just... I'll quote an old song lyric. Is it a cry for help, or a cry for attention? Which do you really want, Daniel? And 3... I want you to talk about all the other shit you've been doing, all the other surreptitious, reprehensible, I guess you'd say even, reprehensible behavior you've been displaying, and why you're condoning bestiality, and why you're asking for near-nude pictures of teenage underage girls on your Instagram, you little lecherous cretin. I would like to know. How about you talk about all this? 'Cause that's mainly what the problem is. It's not just your lying and denying and deriding. That's a lot of rhyme. It's the fact that you just refuse to acknowledge a lot of these legitimate claims that are being brought against you. We want to hear about that. If we can get all that from you, the honest, straight poop, we'll be happy. And if it seems sincere, and it seems like you realize you've been caught, because for some reason you still seem to think that you're evading it all and you're getting away from it. That it's such a hot button topic right now, suicide, what with the Amanda Todd thing happening recently, and story. I mean, there was a fucking kid one time who took his life over an iPod. Kids nowadays are freaking fragile. And while that may not be one person's fault in particular, still, you have to factor that in. You have, and people who say, well, he never asked to be a role model. He never asked to be in his position of authority. He never knew he'd get this famous on YouTube. Yes, I understand that, because I hear that same argument all the time from people like, say, Rihanna, who, you know, when she makes a raunchy video like Pour It Up, they say, well, she didn't ask to be a role model. Yeah, but she still is. And both her and Mr. Repzion have that parallel, and that they know what they are, and they know who their demographic is. So, even if you didn't ask to, you still are a role model, whether you accept it or not right now. And unless you're going to comment on that, specifically do that and tell parents not to let their children watch you, you need to have some responsibility and accountability for that, too. Whether you like it or not, they're your audience, and you need to think of them before you say shit like that you wanted to play takey-backsies on later. Between all the talk about suicide, all the talk about furries and bestialities and cosplay sex and nudes and all that and slut shame and all that, you're a creepy little fucker as of like Mr. Repzion. You're one Mariah Carey-esque nervous breakdown away from Patrick Bateman territory, for fuck's sakes.
You like Huey Lewis on the news?
Okay.
And it's been kind of entertaining to see. If he sees me, I'm about to go grab some popcorn. But he does remind me of that rap song that was out for a little while, for like 10 minutes in YouTube, that was talking about that. It's over, I'm sorry, now it's over. It's my turn, now it's over. Your game shut down, we're sorry. Does anybody even care about Mr. Repzion anymore? What the hell he has to say? Who still subscribed to him? I mean, all he does is rehash old topics like leftovers anyway, day after day after day nowadays. Well, he used to be innovative and novel and groundbreaking that he was doing on his channel a couple of years ago. Now it's just like, well, 10 videos about why I'm an atheist, guys, and why I'm better than you if you're not an atheist, and 10 videos about Abercrombie and Fitch's fat shaming, and 10 videos about Onesian and how much I can't stand him, even though I'm like a distant relative of his. Ugh. It's like living in that Flintstones house, and every time they walk 5 feet, they just have the same set of furniture over and over again. It just loops, or it's like... It's like playing an Atari game that had 3 levels, and then it would just loop over the same 3 levels over and over again, so you got sick of the game. Well, we're all sick of your game, Mr. Repzion. Beautiful Banthies out there. Till then, peace the fuck out. I'm Audi 9000. Before you leave, please do check out my links at the bottom. That feature videos from I Must Destroy All and some guy that... Them, along with Undertaker Freak, had a lot to do with the fact that I decided to address this today, to tackle this topic. Because I was already kind of incensed about his opinion about Mr. Repzion, but then after seeing all the other evidence that was unbeknownst to me that I was unaware of, and it really started just pile on and pile on and pile on, and I was just increasingly sickening and repulsed by that little dude every single day, that child, because he's a child. I'm sorry, he's not an adult. I refuse to call him an adult. He's a child. Then I decided to tackle this. But until then, I'm going to work on some other videos for you guys. Thank you so much. And y'all stay beautiful. Rock on. Try to stay warm because it's cold as balls in here. And I will catch you on the flip side. Bye!